Parents of Reddit, how did your son/daughters so win you over? Read the question wrong. So here's my real answer. I'm a martial arts instructor, among other things. I caught my daughter's boyfriend looking at my belt rack, 5th degree black belt, and trophies, from when I was much younger, and he said, "Are all those yours?" Yep. So you know how to throw someone? Yep. Could you teach me? How much of a setup did I need? I took him into the backyard and threw his skinny around for about 45 minutes. And every time he hit the ground, he got back up with a huge smile and said that was awesome. Show me how. So I took him to my class with my daughter, and had her practice throws on him. He never complained, never flinched, and never. After class, I told my daughter I liked him. So she broke up with him. Uneasy face. Edit, thank you for the gold. It was my parents, actually. When my mom first met my dad, he was working in an auto body repair shop, actually damn good at what he does. Well, to surprise my mom's dad, he borrowed my grandfather's 1968 SS Camaro, which had been nearly totaled in a car wreck a few years back, and completely repaired it. When they first met, my dad shook my grandfather's hand, said, "Mr. Haynes, my name is Kevin. Why don't you come outside?" His Camaro was sitting outside looking almost brand new. My mom says that was the only time she has ever seen her dad cry. TLDR, angsty teenage son meets wonderful girl who turns him into a human being, making us fall in love with her. My son was suffering from an acute case of testosterone poisoning, aka being a typical teenage boy. He hated us. He hated his siblings. He hated school. He hated life. He didn't believe in the concept of having a future. About the only thing keeping him breathing was his guitar. Then along came Jessie, not her real name. Absolutely gorgeous girl, talented. They met because he needed someone to sing the songs he was writing, smart as heck. She got into college a year early, and just a joy to have around. To be honest, my wife and I fell in love with her long before our son did. He had to be smacked in the head a bit to even realize he was smitten. When he fell hard. And luckily, it was the same for her. Now, like I said, Jessie is a wonderful girl, so we would have loved her for her own merits regardless. But it's the effect that she's had on our son that made us fall in love with her. At first, after they started dating, my son was still a typical teenager. But Jessie must have seen something in him that we never could. He was still in around his family, but the first time she was around to see it, she called him on it. When he did poorly in school, she asked him how he expected to get into college and support a family, implying with her, I suspect. So he started getting better grades. When he got frustrated with all of the social crap that goes down in high school, she got him to realize it was basically that wasn't worth it. And so on, and so on. Little by little, she turned him into a human being. The culmination of all this came one day when Jessie was over at our house for a family dinner. He stood up and said that he realized he had been a real tool for a long time, and that he was sorry, and that he knew he had to be a better person. Then he thanked Jessie for giving him a reason to be a better person, and for being someone worth being better for. Hugs and tears all around. And then he made good on his promise. Today, he's a son, and a friend, who I can be proud of. Frankly, if Jessie had never come into the picture, I doubt he'd be alive. They're still together junior year of college, and they got engaged a few weeks ago. At their wedding I plan to say this, the old cliche about not losing a son but gaining a daughter doesn't apply, because Jessie brought back to us the son we thought we had lost, and we can't gain a daughter because she has been that and more to us for close to 7 years. Not a parent but a sister who is fiercely protective of her brothers. My eldest brother was terrified of me. I'm quite aloof, I get it. The defining moment of my coming to love her was when we visited the zoo. On the way in, she saw a little girl getting a butterfly face painted on her. She, aged 28, wanted the same thing. My brother said no way, don't be ridiculous, etc. She said nothing more about it, just went about her day. Hour or two later, she went to the bathroom. She took a while. She returned with a butterfly on her face and the biggest smile I have ever seen. Her managing to cause this look of total despair but also love on my brother's face was the moment. Edit, just in case you're wondering, my brother is not a control freak. It was cutesy flirtatious kind of behavior on both their parts. No need to raise alarm bells. I worked in an ice cream shop with my current so and her mom came in one night. Without knowing it was her mom at the time, me being friendly, I struck up a conversation with her while I got her ice cream and food for her. 3 months later I start dating the girl I worked with and I immediately recognized her mom when I met her for the first time. The first thing her mom said was, "Well, you already have my approval." My parents are pretty traditional and really liked the idea of any potential boyfriends asking my dad's permission to date me. However, after 3 years of undergrad, living away from home and inevitable casual BFS, they had kind of come to accept that this was not going to happen. I made this joke after a one-night stand made it clear he wanted to date me. We went on a few dates and things were progressing well. However, I was surprised one day to hear that my father and brother were coming to visit the city for a day. Turns out this guy had contacted my brother on Facebook and was taking him and my father out to lunch to ask permission to date me. This one-night stand is now my husband. My now husband won over my mom forever when, after meeting for the first time at a college cocktail party, my parents were visiting for parents' weekend, he put his jacket over my shoulders when we all went outside. It was a brisk fall day and I was in a dress. She has always said she liked him from that moment on. 33 years later, she wasn't wrong. I know the exact moment I won my wife's family over. I could see it in her father's eyes. It was high school, before we started dating. The first time I went over to her house, actually. Her father and 2 brothers are all pretty tall, and I'm average height. It's a very alpha male household, and they had this thing they liked to do to potential boyfriends. So when my wife left the room to go to the bathroom or whatever, all 3 of them stood, lined up shoulder to shoulder, and loomed over me. Blank-faced, glaring down, no words, no motion. Just staring, and looming. I found out later that her last boyfriend almost cried when they did this to him. I've always been really socially awkward. But an odd part of that awkwardness is that I'm never intimidated by people. I don't know why, but they just don't frighten me. I slowly stood up, looking them all in the eye, and then poked her dad right in the tummy. I said, "Boop." He stared for a second, and then a giant grin split his face. It turns out that he's a massive goofball. From that moment on, I was a member of the family. The whole dating and marriage thing was just a formality to them. Edit, thanks for the gold, guys. I'm glad my near murder could bring you some laughs. Pecan pie. Yes, fixing computers helped, yes, him being a nice guy helped, but I swear my husband won over my entire family and extended family on his pie alone. Quote from every family meal ever before we got married, "Is your boyfriend coming? Is he bringing that pecan pie? Now that we are married, hey, where's his pecan pie? You know you married a winner there, he makes great pies." My so bonded with my dad immediately by their mutual hatred of my older sister's ex-BF/baby daddy. Actually, my younger sister also had a trash can of a BF at the time. When my so showed up with a car, a stable job, and actually treated me with respect, it was like a miracle. I'll tell you the story of how my husband won over my dad. My dad has a sailboat, which he is kind of crazy about. My husband has a background in naval architecture. We went to visit my dad, and while we were on his boat in the marina, the guy in the slip next to us runs over. "My boat is taking on water," he says. "Come help me bail it out." "Don't worry," responds my father. My son-in-law is a naval architect. Something to note at this point in the story, my now husband and I had only been dating for like 8 months. We weren't even close to getting engaged, let alone married. But now all of a sudden boyfriend is his son-in-law. So now husband just goes with it. Sure. The son-in-law, will see if I can help. He gets on the guy's boat and sees that there's water seeping through the floorboards. He thinks this is weird, given that the pump is going and the boat isn't listing or anything. So he gets down, sticks his finger in the water, and licks it. It's fresh water, now husband says. Your bilge is leaking. Did you remember to turn off the hose after you finished filling up your fresh water tank? And that, My friends, is how my husband became a legend in Dad's Marina, and my dad's favorite person of all time. Edit, because, despite being with my husband for almost 10 years now, I still know about naval architecture. And gold. I'm so glad you guys got a kick out this story. All these years later, it certainly still cracks me up. Anyway, many thanks.